Raku is the son of a rich and powerful Yakuza boss whose only goal is to find true love. But when his dad sets him up with a chick from a rival gang that he hates, he decides to rebel and look for love on his own. Now, 4 baddies are throwing themselves at him to become the next Mrs. Yakuza. Just days before his life became absolute chaos, Raku got the VIP Yakuza escort treatment to school, which was embarrassing. Walking onto campus, he pulled out his precious locket and started spinning it around his finger like some kind of fidget toy. Out of nowhere, a blonde tornado literally drops from the sky and uses his face as her personal landing strip, making his necklace locket go flying. She does not even bat an eye and runs off after an insincere apology. A few minutes later, Raku drags himself to class and his friends Kasaki and Shu immediately spot the damage to his face. When they ask what happened, he tells them he got bodied by some wild caveman lady. Just then, Kasaki puts a band-aid on his nose, making him smile for being helped by the girl he likes. But then the teacher walks in with a new transfer student who introduces herself as Chidoji. The second Raku recognizes her, he calls her a barbarian in front of everyone, making her get mad and give him the 80s wife treatment. Later during class, Raku realizes his locket is missing, and after school, he corners Chidoji and tells her she has to help him find it since she's the reason it's gone. Next day, when she shows up to help him search, she immediately starts complaining about how much she can't stand him. Raku reminds her this whole mess is her fault, and she fires back that they wouldn't be in this situation if he wasn't obsessed with some random piece of jewelry. When Kasaki joins them, Chidoji keeps going with the insults, and Raku finally snaps because she's disrespecting the person with whom he made a love promise in the past. He angrily tells her he doesn't need her help anymore. Right on cue, it starts raining and Chidoji walks away. The next day, while Raku's searching solo, Kasaki appears and tells him Chidoji's looking for him. Just then, she throws the locket at his head and storms off without saying anything. Kasaki explains that Chidoji kept searching until she found it, and there's even a note attached to the chain. Unfortunately, the note's in English so Raku can't read it because he is an idiot, but he's convinced she doesn't want to see him again. As he walks away, Kasaki pulls out a key and wonders to herself if she should have asked Raku if he's the boy she made a promise to 10 years ago. Later that day, Raku gets home and his dad tells him he has to fake date the daughter of a rival gang to keep the peace between their organizations. Raku thinks it's the dumbest idea ever and starts complaining, but his old man tells him he has zero say in the matter. Then he pulls back a curtain, and that's when Raku realizes his new fake girlfriend is his mortal enemy Chidoji. Chidoji's just as shocked to see him, and now Raku finally gets why she acts like some kind of street thug. They immediately start arguing, with Chidoji saying she'd rather be in a horror movie than date Raku, while he claims he'd rather get eaten by zombies than pretend being near her doesn't make him sick. While they're having this toxic showdown, the wall behind them literally explodes and in walk these wannabe gangsters, followed by the Yakuza squad making their dramatic entrance. Before World War III can break out, both dads shove the kids together and announce they're madly in love. The gang members are skeptical, but the bosses insist these two are absolutely smitten. Everyone's ready to believe in world peace until Raku and Chidoji start roasting each other again, talking about how they'd never date each other in a million years. This gets both gangs heated and ready to throw down. Realizing they're about to start an actual war, their 2 brain cells finally activate and they put on the most cringe performance in human history. They're calling each other honey and sweetheart with all the enthusiasm of drama club folks in a forced school play. Somehow this terrible acting convinces everyone they're totally in love, even though their chemistry is faker than reality TV. Later, they're sitting outside and Raku actually thanks her for finding his locket. She asks why he's so obsessed with it, so he explains it's from some girl he met years ago who gave it to him as a promise they'd meet again. He can't remember her face or name, but he's convinced they'll reunite someday. Chidoji actually calls it romantic, which makes him uncomfortable, so he changes the subject real quick. Weekend hits and Chidoji shows up at his house because Claude's getting suspicious of their fake relationship. Their date is a complete disaster. Raku's mentally pretending she's Kasaki while Chidoji complains about everything, eats like she's never seen food before, sleeps through the entire movie, and orders him around like her personal assistant. While waiting for him to buy juice, some creepy dudes approach her trying to get her to hang out with them. She's about to go full savage mode when Raku shows up, grabs her hand, and they bolt. They end up at a park where Chidoji goes to the bathroom and Raku sits there wishing he was with Kasaki instead. Out of nowhere, Kasaki actually appears and nearly gives him a heart attack. She says she spotted him and wanted to say hi. Meanwhile, Chidoge overhears some gang members saying they don't look convincing as a couple, which makes her panic. She rushes back acting all lovey-dovey but freezes when she sees Kisaki there. Kisaki asks if they're dating after hearing Chidoge call Raku darling. They both deny it initially, but then Raku remembers they're being watched and gets conflicted. Chidoge grabs his hand and confirms they're dating while quietly telling him to play along. She makes up an excuse to leave, and the gang members retreat too. Now alone with Kisaki, Raku tries to explain the situation, but she's already bought their lie completely. As she's leaving, Raku pulls out his locket and asks if she's seen it before because he noticed her shocked reaction when Chidoge found it. Kisaki claims she's never seen it and tells him to go after Chidoge before disappearing. Next day at school, Raku and Chidoge walk into class, and suddenly they're the main characters everyone's staring at. Their classmates are congratulating them on their relationship because apparently people spotted them on their date yesterday. Shu's practically having a mental breakdown, shaking Raku's shoulders and crying about how he's abandoning the single virgin squad. The teacher walks in and also congratulates them, so Raku decides it's time to spill the truth. But just as he's about to speak, he feels someone's death stare burning into his soul. He turns around, and there's Claude sitting in a tree outside their window with binoculars like some kind of professional stalker. Chidoge sees him too, so they have to put on another cringe show for their classmates, who totally eat it up. After school, Raku bumps into Kisaki in the hallway, and while they're talking, someone crashes into her. She drops this key she always carries around, and when Raku sees it, his brain starts making dangerous connections. The moment it hits him that it might be for his locket, the absolute genius screams in surprise like a banshee and starts sweating bullets. Kisaki quickly grabs the key, claims it's for some old bookcase at home, and runs away faster than someone fleeing a crime scene. As the week goes on, Raku and Chidoge keep up their fake dating performance even though they're ready to end each other 24/7. One day after school, Raku overhears some girls talking about Chidoge, and it turns out they think she's an ice queen because she shuts down anyone who tries to be friendly. Raku finds Chidoge in their classroom writing in a notebook with everyone's names and what they like. When she notices him, she jumps up and tries to hide the book. She asks if he heard her talking to herself while writing, and when he says yes, she gets embarrassed and tries to punch him, but stops when he begs for mercy. She turns away and tells him he can laugh all he wants because she knows she looks pathetic writing down people's info just so she can figure out how to approach them. She admits she has trouble making friends because Claude follows her everywhere and runs background checks on anyone she talks to, which makes things super awkward. She usually stays alone to avoid causing problems for people. Surprisingly, Raku actually gets it because he's dealt with similar stuff due to his Yakuza connections. He offers to give her some friendship tips, and even though she doesn't say it nicely, Chidoge agrees to let him help. This makes Raku ask if she could be nice to him just once, and she clocks him by reminding him that he was her fake boy toy, and did not deserve basic human compassion. Few days later, Ruri, who is Kisaki's friend and basically a master strategist, decides to play Cupid and sets up a study session at Raku's house. Even though Raku's completely shook, he agrees because Kisaki will be there. When they arrive at his place, he's trying to stay calm on the outside while internally screaming because his crush is literally in his house. They settle down to do homework and Raku's on maximum virgin alert. Ruri makes things worse by asking him to help Kisaki with a math problem she's struggling with. Both Kisaki and Raku start panicking, but Ruri insists they work together, so Kisaki sits next to him. Having her this close makes Raku's heart go absolutely feral, but then Chidoge interrupts by explaining the problem to Kisaki. Raku tells her to mind her business and focus on her own work, but she reveals she's already finished everything. Raku assumes she's all looks and no brains, but she proves him wrong by showing her completed worksheet. He's completely shook while she pushes him out of the way to take his spot next to Kisaki. Later, Chidoge asks Kisaki if she has a crush on anyone. Kisaki manages to say no, which makes Raku way too happy. Chidoge also admits she doesn't like anyone, which makes everyone, including Shu the NPC, stare at her like she just confessed to murder. Realizing her mistake, Chidoge quickly says she was joking and Raku backs her up. Their friends seem to believe them, but Shu, being the nosy chaos agent he is, asks how far Chidoge and Raku have gone physically. Everyone's mortified by his straightforward question, so Raku drags him outside to talk some sense into him. Raku reveals they're faking everything and Shu's not surprised. He tells Raku to grow a backbone and confess to Kasaki because she likes him too. Raku thinks Shu's just making stuff up, but he can't stop thinking about it when they go back inside. Meanwhile, some Yakuza members overheard Shu's question and decide to help spice up Raku and Chidoji's relationship. They send them to get special tea from the storehouse and lock them inside. Raku immediately knows his guys are behind this and decides to just wait it out. Suddenly, Chidoji latches onto his back, and he freaks out until he realizes she's genuinely scared. She's clinging to him with tears in her eyes, and Raku can't help but notice she's actually really pretty when she's not trying to eliminate him. He immediately scolds himself for thinking about her like that because his thoughts are drifting into dangerous territory. Chidoji spots a ladder and suggests they climb out through the window. Raku says she's too scared to climb right now and offers to go alone for help, but she tells him to go get backup. He says leaving her alone would be messed up, so they're stuck together. To distract herself, Chidoji starts asking random questions, and somehow they end up arguing about who has more dating experience, even though neither of them has ever been kissed. Chidoji calms down and decides to try the ladder anyway, but she trips and falls on top of him. They're staring into each other's eyes about to have a moment when Claude bursts through the door like the FBI. Seeing them in that freaky position, Claude pulls out his gun and starts threatening Raku while they desperately try to explain what happened. Then, Rory and Kasaki show up, and when Kasaki sees them like that, she gets so embarrassed she drags Rory away, leaving Raku absolutely devastated. Next day, Raku overhears Rory and Kasaki talking about the key Kasaki always has with her. He's shook to learn it was given to her by some boy she met 10 years ago. Later, Rory asks Chidoji and Raku to help the swim team because they're short on members. Chidoji's down to help, but Raku's confused why he needs to be at girls' swim practice. Then Kasaki walks into the pool area and Raku literally forgets how to speak, but he gets distracted by her key again. Chidoji assumes he's just perving on Kasaki and smacks him upside the head multiple times. Raku asks why she's trying to make him even dumber, and she says she wouldn't have to hit him if he didn't act like a total creep. While they're arguing, Rory randomly asks if they went to the storehouse yesterday to play 7 Minutes in Heaven. Everyone's gagged, but Raku explains his guys locked them in there as a joke. Suddenly, Shu appears out of nowhere saying he's there to support the swim team, but Rory kicks him straight into the pool and tries to drown him while telling Raku to teach Kasaki how to swim. Kasaki apologizes for the trouble, but Chidoji says not to worry about it. While she's talking, Shu crawls back over and tries to offer to put sunscreen on Chidoji, which creeps her out so much that Kasaki kicks him into a wall. Chidoji demonstrates her swimming for Kasaki, but she swims like she's training for the Olympics, so it's impossible for Kasaki to learn from her. Raku takes over and starts showing Kasaki the basics, but being so close to her almost sends him into a virgin frenzy. Kasaki tries to help him but almost drowns, so he carries her out and asks if she needs a break. Kasaki says she's fine but offers to get drinks to thank him. When she leaves, he notices her key by her bag and decides to test if it fits his locket. He tries it, but it doesn't work, and before he can put it back, the girls return. Kasaki sees him with the key and asks why he has the girls' locker room key. Raku tries to explain, but Chidoji beats him up and ties him up, accusing him of being a freak who wanted to spy on girls changing. Raku swears that's not what happened, and Kasaki believes him because she knows he's too much of a coward to actually peep. Rory unties him, but says he'd better make sure Kasaki can swim like a pro by tomorrow's competition. Next day at the pool, Chidoji asks about Kasaki's progress and Raku admits she can only swim with a kickboard. Chidoji calls him useless, but Raku points out you can't learn to swim in one day. When Kasaki and Rory arrive, Kasaki thanks Raku for all his help, and he tells her to just do her best. Competition time arrives, and even though Raku tells Chidoji to warm up, she ignores him completely. During her race, her legs cramp up and she starts drowning. Raku immediately jumps in to save her, and Shu claims she's not breathing and needs mouth-to-mouth from her boyfriend. Raku doesn't want to do it, but also doesn't want her to die, so he agrees. Just as he's about to give her CPR, she wakes up, assumes he was trying to take advantage of her, and beats him up while Shu laughs his rear off. Later, while changing, Rory asks Kasaki why she brought her key and tells her to stop living in the past and focus on her future. Next day during lunch, Kasaki and Rory tell Chidoji that Raku saved her from drowning, which surprises her. They suggest she thank him and apologize for beating him up like a caveman. Chidoji goes looking for Raku to apologize, but every time she tries, he says something that makes her mad, so she ends up hitting him instead. After multiple failed attempts, she tells Ruri and Kasaki she's done trying to apologize to someone as dense as concrete. While she's complaining about what an idiot he is, Kasaki asks if she's really dating him. Chidoge would normally lie, but decides to tell them the truth instead. Kasaki's surprised to learn it's all fake, but Ruri isn't because she already suspected something fishy. Before leaving, Ruri asks if Chidoge would step aside for any girl brave enough to confess to Raku. Chidoge says she'd do it in a heartbeat because no sane person would want to date such a loser. When they're alone, Ruri suggests Kasaki confess since Raku's actually single. Kasaki admits she's scared he won't feel the same way, but she's willing to try. Meanwhile, Raku's heading to the school zoo when he bumps into someone, breaking his locket chain. He keeps walking without realizing his locket fell. At the zoo, Chidoge is already there and asks why he saved her. He tells her his body just reacted when he saw her drowning. Chidoge feels overwhelmed by his honesty and thanks him in English because she's too embarrassed to say it in Japanese. Raku doesn't understand, so he tries to get her to translate, but she gets mad and hits him with a broom before storming off. After Chidoge leaves, she finds his locket on the ground and picks it up, wondering how he lost it. Later, Raku returns to class to get his bag and is surprised Ruri and Kasaki are still there. Ruri immediately runs off, making sure to tell Kasaki this is her chance to confess. Being alone with Raku makes Kasaki's face turn red. When she tries to confess, a baseball crashes through the window. Raku asks her to wait while he gets a teacher, and before leaving, asks what she wanted to tell him. Kasaki tells him to forget it because it's not important. On his way to find a teacher, Raku convinces himself she was about to confess, but doesn't think she'd actually do something like that. That night, Chidoge shows up at his house and returns his fixed locket. The next day, a new student named Seishiro gets introduced to the class and immediately hugs Chidoge super fondly. During break, Seishiro tells Chidoge he heard she got a boyfriend and wants to meet him, so Chidoge grabs Raku and drags him over for introductions. At lunch, Seishiro asks to speak with Raku privately. They go to the roof where Seishiro asks if Raku truly likes Chidoge. Raku manages to say yes, but Seishiro doesn't believe him. He asks if Raku would die for Chidoge, and Raku says yes again. Suddenly, Seishiro pulls out a gun and tells Raku to die then. Before Raku can react, Seishiro has the gun under his chin and starts kicking him for having slow reflexes. He calls Raku pathetic and spineless, swearing to win Chidoge's love and take her away from him. Raku would happily let that happen, but then remembers what would occur if he and Chidoge broke up. He tells Seishiro he won't let him interfere in their relationship, which makes Seishiro so mad he almost sends Raku to meet his maker right there. Chidoge bursts through the door asking him to stop, but Seishiro says he can't watch Raku make a fool of her, so he challenges Raku to a duel. When duel time arrives, Raku's surprised to see so many students gathered because Shu spread the word and is taking bets on the outcome. Seishiro tosses a coin to start the duel, and Raku's ready to win until he sees what weapons Seishiro brought. Knowing he's not bulletproof like Superman, Raku immediately runs for his life. Seishiro chases him shooting, but Raku dodges everything while trying to lose him. During the chase, Seishiro says Raku isn't man enough because he won't take a bullet for love. Raku argues that Seishiro isn't man enough because he can't see that Chidoge doesn't need some knight in shining armor to rescue her. This sends Seishiro into a blind rage and he intensifies the chase. To escape, Raku jumps out a window into the pool below, and Seishiro follows without thinking twice. Raku pulls an unconscious Seishiro out and decides to get him out of his wet clothes so he doesn't catch a cold. He takes him to the locker room and starts undressing him, but Seishiro wakes up and pushes him away. Confused by the reaction, Raku tries to explain but stops talking when he sees Seishiro's honking chest. Hearing voices approaching, Raku pulls Seishiro into an empty locker to avoid any misunderstandings. When Chidoge and others check the room, they find it empty. When two girls arrive, they tell Chidoge the girls' locker room is also empty. They ask why Chidoge wanted them to check there, and she reveals that Seishiro is actually a girl, shocking everyone. Inside the locker, Raku asks why she dresses like a guy. Seishiro explains that Claude raised her as a boy and still doesn't know she's a girl. She doesn't bother correcting him because she abandoned being feminine to protect Chidoge. Raku says it's a shame because he thinks she's cute as a girl, making Seishiro self-conscious. Suddenly, the locker door opens and Chidoge beats up Raku when she sees Seishiro's state of undress. After Raku explains what happened, Chidoge asks who won the duel. Seishiro declares it invalid because Raku hasn't proven he's man enough to protect Chidoja. But when Raku leaves them alone, Seishiro admits she actually lost the duel. Next day, Chidoja makes Seishiro wear the female uniform because she keeps asking why people think she's a boy. Seishiro feels uncomfortable and complains that dressing feminine means she can't keep her promise. Since Chidoja's memory is basically non-existent, she can't remember what promise. Seishiro reminds her it was made the first day they bathed together, but Chidoja still can't remember and says it doesn't matter anyway. She puts a ribbon in Seishiro's hair to complete the look, and when Raku walks in saying she looks cute, Seishiro completely freaks out and doesn't know how to handle the compliment. Next day, Seishiro meets up with Claude for her daily combat training, and he straight up orders her to eliminate Raku the second she finds out his relationship with Chidoja is fake. That's why all week long, Seishiro's been the ultimate third wheel, glued to Chidoja and Raku like some kind of overly attached bodyguard. One afternoon, Raku tells Chidoja the teacher wants them to hit up the pet store for animal food. Chidoja's first thought is to make him go by himself, but he says he can't carry everything alone. Seishiro, who's been lurking in the bushes like a ninja, volunteers to help. Before they leave, Chidoja forces Seishiro into a dress, which makes her super uncomfortable because everyone's staring at her like she's some kind of rare Pokemon. At the pet store, Raku watches Seishiro play with a puppy and can't help but notice she looks totally different from her usual intimidating self. When Seishiro catches him staring, she calls him a freaky weirdo because she thinks he's mentally undressing her. She gets up to leave but trips and almost face plants into the floor before Raku catches her. Walking back to school, Raku notices Seishiro's limping. When she takes off her shoe, he sees her feet are covered in blisters. He asks why she didn't say anything when she was in pain, and Seishiro tells him that complaining about trivial stuff means she's not fit to protect Chidoja. This makes him tell her that the only thing in her head besides guns and violence is probably a pile of sand. He lifts her onto his back since he doesn't want her walking barefoot, but Seishiro starts freaking out completely. She begs him to put her down, but he promises he has zero bad intentions. As he starts walking, Seishiro finally relaxes and Raku asks how long she and Chidoja have known each other. Seishiro says they met about 10 years ago and starts telling him about Chidoja's first crush. Raku finds this weird since Chidoja told him she'd never had a crush before. He then asks Seishiro about her first crush, and she admits she's never fallen for anyone because she spends all her time taking care of Chidoja. This makes him predict that she'll eventually experience love, and when it happens, she'll be the happiest person alive. His words make her feel special, so she tries to play it off by being mean to him again. That night during her usual training with Claude, when he asks about Raku, she loses focus for a second. She manages to tell him there's nothing new about Raku, even though her face is red as a tomato. Next day at school, when Seishiro sees Raku, she completely freaks out and starts acting weird. During break, she confides in Chidoja and tells her that whenever she's around a certain person, her heart races, her face gets hot, and she can barely speak properly. The absolute brainless fool known as Chidoja says it sounds like Seishiro is seriously sick. Seishiro says she doesn't feel ill, but agrees to go to the hospital if the symptoms continue. Later, she tells Claude the same thing, and just like Chidoja, he suggests she get medical help. Seishiro decides to ask Shu and some classmates, but none give her a straight answer, so she goes to Kasaki and Rory. They're the ones who break it to her that what she's feeling is love, and Seishiro absolutely loses it. She refuses to believe she feels anything but hate for Raku, but the girls insist that's exactly what's happening. Rory even mentions that Kasaki's in the same situation, but Kasaki quickly slaps her hand over Rory's mouth to shut her up. After leaving the classroom, Seishiro keeps thinking about what the girls told her and starts imagining herself with Raku. Realizing what she's doing, she tries to get rid of these thoughts by brutally banging her head against the wall. Eventually, she goes to the garden to sulk, and when Chidoja finds her, she tells her what Kasaki and Rory said. Chidoja claims she doesn't know how people in love act since she's never been in love. When Seishiro asks how she got into a relationship if she's never fallen in love, Chidoja takes back her statement. Seishiro then reminds her that she fell in love with some boy she met 10 years ago, which surprises Chidoja since she has zero memory of it. That evening, when Chidoja gets home, she decides to look for childhood mementos that might help her remember her first crush. After almost getting crushed by a pile of junk she'd stuffed in her closet, she finds her old diary. Inside are entries about all the time she spent playing with her first crush. One entry talks about the day he saved her from a wild animal and got a cut on his forehead. Another describes when he rescued her after she fell into some rocks, and the final entry mentions the promise she made to the boy. Unfortunately, her younger self forgot to write what kind of promise it was, which just frustrates her more. As she tries to figure out what the promise was, she picks up the book and is shocked when a key falls out. Chidoj finds it super weird that a key was hiding in her diary and wonders if it's connected to the promise she made with her first love. Just then, Seishiro knocks on her window, and when she notices the serious look on Chidoj's face, she asks what's wrong. Chidoj tells her she's curious about her mysterious first love and wants Seishiro to find the place where they first met. Seishiro agrees but says it'll have to wait until they get back from their school camping trip. Chidoj is confused since she totally forgot about the trip, but Seishiro reminds her they're leaving tomorrow. When they get to school next day, their teacher tells them to split into teams since they're about to leave. Chidoj has no clue what she means, so she asks Raku, who explains they've been divided into teams for the trip. Their squad consists of her, Raku, Seishiro, Ruri, Kasaki, and Shu. At their destination, the teacher's first task is preparing lunch. Raku notices Chidoj seems excited, but has no idea she's also lost in thought about her first love. She still can't remember him, but knows the only way she'd recognize him is by the scar he got when he saved her. She approaches Raku with a bowl of hot water, but accidentally trips over a log and dumps the whole thing on his head. Raku screams in surprise, and when he turns to face her, she notices he has a scar on his head. She asks how he got it, and he tells her he got hurt playing with animals as a kid. This makes her wonder if he's the boy she's looking for, but she refuses to believe it's him and walks away. Later, their group goes to their room and Shu suggests a card game. But since he's a creepy fool who only thinks about chaos, he adds a twist to the game. He tells them the losers have to reveal the color of their underwear, but after Rory beats the living daylights out of him for being a degenerate, he changes it to talking about their first crush. Before they can play the final round, their teacher bursts in screaming at them to go downstairs for dinner. After dinner, the teacher tells Raku he has a phone call, so he goes to the front desk. He's completely unaware that Claude's following him, but Chidoj sees and realizes he's up to no good. At the front desk, Raku discovers there's nobody on the line, so he decides to join the others in the bath. However, he doesn't know he's entering the female bathroom because Claude switched the curtains. Even though he finds it strange that the place is empty, he doesn't suspect foul play and relaxes in the water. Suddenly, someone jumps into the bath, causing a huge splash, and Raku yells that swimming in the bath is prohibited. When the person emerges from the water, he's shocked to see it's Chidoj, and she starts hitting him with a bucket. Eventually, she realizes Claude's responsible, so she tells him to leave before the others arrive. Just as he's about to escape, the door opens, so Chidoj tells him to hide until he finds another way out. While the girls wash up, Raku decides to leave through the staff entrance. Chidoj helps by drawing the girls' attention to something on the wall, but before he can escape, their teacher and other female students arrive. He has no choice but to retreat and hope for another chance to leave. But when he hears the girls talking about Seishiru's assets, he gets a nosebleed. He tries to stay quiet, but Seishiru hears him and throws a bath gel bottle at the bucket he's hiding behind. The bucket splits in half, but Raku's unharmed since he dropped flat when she threw it. Seishiru's surprised to find the bucket empty because she swore she heard something. Chidoj has to use her body to hide Raku, but some girls approach her asking questions about her relationship. Hoping to redirect their attention, she tells them Seishiru has a crush on someone. The girls immediately rush to Seishiru's side to hear about her crush, but she refuses to tell them anything and mentions Kasaki's crush instead. During this chaos, Raku notices a hole leading to the men's bath and tells Chidoj he's leaving through it. However, when he hears Kasaki has a crush, he stops his escape plan because curiosity gets the best of him. Just then, Kasaki tries to avoid the girls and runs away, ending up sitting right in front of the hole he planned to escape through. Chidoj notices this and tries to pull Kasaki away, but since her hands are wet, she accidentally lets go. This causes Kasaki to fall on top of Raku, and when she mentions feeling something beneath her, Chidoj tells her it's her imagination. She pushes Kasaki out of the way so Raku can move freely, but slips and falls. This brings her face to face with Raku's little guy while he sees her bare melons, so Raku quickly rushes away. When he surfaces on the other side, Shu and others are surprised to see him. He tells them he's been underwater the whole time so they won't suspect him, which works since they believe his lie. Shu invites him to join them listening in on the girls, but Raku declines saying he's tired. Later that night, he meets Chidoge outside and apologizes for what happened, because he's super embarrassed. Next day during breakfast, Shu tells Raku they're doing a test of courage later that evening. He explains there'll be a lottery pairing boys and girls, and the part he's most hyped about is that they get to hold hands. He tries to get Roku excited by saying there's a chance he could be paired with Kisaki. Raku doesn't think he's lucky enough for that to happen, so Shu offers to sell his ticket if he gets paired with Kisaki. On the other side of the dining hall, Rory also tells Kisaki to make sure she gets paired with Raku. Even though Kisaki knows it's impossible, she still feels hopeful about it. When she turns to leave, she sees Raku by the vending machine and goes over to say hello. At first, Raku responds normally, but when he remembers last night's bathroom incident, he gets completely flustered. He quickly rushes away before saying something stupid, leaving Kisaki totally confused about his weird behavior. When evening rolls around, the teacher announces the test of courage before going off to get wasted with the other faculty members. Soon they start picking lots, and before Raku picks his, Ruri makes it known that Kisaki's number is 12, so Raku prays to every deity that he'll pick the same number. His prayers are answered, and he picks the same number as Kisaki, while Chidoge gets the absolute misfortune of being paired with Shu. When an excited Kisaki approaches Raku, he struggles to look her in the eye without imagining her in her birthday suit, so she asks why he's avoiding her. Raku says he's not avoiding her and claims he's nervous because it's his first time spending the night in the same room as girls. While they talk, Chidoge watches them and wonders why Raku's never nice to her the way he is with Kisaki. Just then, she hears voices from the bushes behind her, so she investigates and discovers the students who are supposed to play monsters during the test. They tell her the girl playing the ghost has a bad stomach ache and beg her to take her spot. Chidoge tries to refuse because of her fear of the dark, but they keep begging until she caves and agrees to do it. After getting into costume, they give her a flashlight and one of the boys leads her to her assigned spot. When the boy leaves her alone, Chidoge panics and tries to turn on her flashlight, but it doesn't work, so she throws it away, deciding to brave the darkness. However, when a lizard crawls past her feet, she screams in fear and hugs herself while praying someone will rescue her. Meanwhile, at camp, it's almost time for Raku and Kisaki to venture into the woods, so they shyly hold hands. Raku's so nervous he's sweating buckets and can only hope Kisaki won't be disgusted by him. When he looks at her, he notices her face is red and wonders if she's as nervous as he is. Suddenly, Shu rushes over asking if he's seen Chidoge, but since Raku hasn't, he's no help. One of their classmates tells them she saw Chidoge heading into the woods dressed as a ghost, which surprises Raku because he knows she's scared of the dark. Just then, the second ghost girl runs toward them saying she forgot to give Chidoge new batteries for her flashlight. This makes Raku worried, so he tells Kisaki he'll be back and runs into the woods searching for Chidoge because he knows she'll be terrified wherever she is. When he finds her, she's on the verge of tears but very grateful to see him. As they make their way back to camp, she holds onto his jacket, and he scolds her for agreeing to play the ghost when she knew she was scared of the dark. By the time they return, the test has already finished, but their friends are glad to see they're okay. Raku apologizes to Kisaki for leaving her alone, but she tells him she's not mad because she was also worried about Chidoge. Few days after returning from their trip, Seishiro tells Raku, Kisaki, and Ruri that it's Chidoge's birthday and invites them to the surprise party they're throwing at her house later. They all agree to attend, and when Raku mentions needing to buy gifts, Ruri suggests he go with Kisaki after school to get them. Both immediately freak out because they'd be alone together, and Kisaki tries to convince Ruri to come with them, but the self-appointed Cupid refuses. After school, Raku and Kisaki meet at a cafe, but he's nervous the entire time because it feels like they're on an actual date. Later, after buying presents, Kisaki suggests they take a detour before heading to Chidoge's party, and Raku agrees. She takes him to her favorite spot overlooking the city, and when she tells him he's the first person she's ever brought there, he feels incredibly happy. As they talk, Raku decides to ask when Kisaki's birthday is, but because he's thinking about the girl he made a promise to years ago, different words come out of his mouth. He's shocked when he realizes he asked if she's the girl he met 10 years ago, and the most surprising part is that Kisaki admits she might be the one. She pulls out her key and shows it to him, saying she made a promise to a young boy years ago, but admits she doesn't remember anything about him. The whole revelation is a surprise to him, but before they can do anything, Seishiro calls Raku screaming at him to get to Chidoge's house immediately. When they arrive, Seishiro, Ruri, and Shu, who invited himself, are already there. When Chidoj sees them, she panics and immediately pulls Raku aside, telling him she's scared because none of their friends know her family's affiliated with the mafia. Raku tells her not to worry and goes to speak with their friends, who to her surprise don't treat her differently after learning the truth. Seishiru then leads them to the party room, and the gangsters welcome everyone happily. Claude's also there, treating Raku nicely, which makes Raku realize he's planning something. It turns out Claude planned to embarrass Raku when it's time to present gifts. Claude unveils the new car he bought for Chidoje, but she tells him she doesn't want it since she doesn't have a license. This makes him feel dejected, but he's sure his gift is much better than Raku's, and it is, because Raku's gift is a gorilla doll that resembles Chidoje. The mafia members immediately pull out their guns to threaten Raku since they think he's insulting Chidoje with his gift. However, Chidoje surprises everyone by laughing and saying she loves the gift. As the night progresses, Chidoje finds Raku standing on the balcony and uses the chance to ask if he still likes the girl he made a promise to 10 years ago. Raku tells her yes because he's convinced the girl is Kasaki, so Chidoje asks if he's familiar with the phrase "Zos in love." Raku's shocked that she knows the phrase because he made it up on the day he made the promise with the girl. She then holds up her key asking if he's seen it before, and he tells her no. However, he mentions that the girl he made the promise with is the only one who can unlock his locket. The whole situation sounds absolutely ridiculous, so neither wants to accept that the person they've been searching for is the other. Raku's sure his girl was very sweet and gentle, unlike the savage Chidoje before him, and Chidoje compared her boy to a brave and noble knight instead of this disaster. However, they decide to test Chidoje's key to see if it'll unlock Raku's locket and put their minds to rest once and for all. Chidoje is so nervous when she puts the key in the locket that she accidentally breaks it. Raku scolds her for breaking the key, but Chidoje argues it's not her fault and says there's no way he's the boy from her past. She walks away, leaving a very confused Raku wondering why she just shrugged everything off like that. On his way out, Raku meets Chidoje's father, who reveals that Chidoje and Kasaki were his friends 10 years ago, which surprises Raku. Next day at school, Shu calls his uncle who he gave Raku's locket to and asks how long it'll take to repair. His uncle says it'll take some time and promises to call once the locket's fixed, which makes Raku feel relieved. Later, as Raku walks into the school building, he runs into Chidoje and they both act like nothing happened between them. The moment they get to class, they spot Claude sitting in the tree watching them like some kind of surveillance agent. Immediately, they panic, but Raku recovers first and reminds Chidoje they have to put on a good show. The next moment, their classmates walk in, so they put on their loving couple act with Raku taking the lead. However, Chidoje's response doesn't sound very convincing, and she seems confused about what's happening. Later that day, Kasaki asks Raku why Chidoje is acting strange, but Raku doesn't know and mentions that Chidoje refuses to tell him anything. However, he wonders if Chidoje's attitude is related to the possibility that she could be the girl he made a promise to 10 years ago. Kasaki notices he's not wearing his locket and asks where it is, so he tells her he sent it for repairs. During class that afternoon, the teacher tells students that the camping trip photos are on the notice board. Each photo has a number, and they just need to write down the numbers of the photos they want. When they go to check out the photos, they notice Shu has set up a small board with photos he took personally. From his collection, he shows Raku a photo of Ruri and Kasaki sleeping, and Raku immediately buys it because he thinks Kasaki looks cute. As he starts walking back to class, he spots another picture of Chidoje. Upon closer inspection, he discovers that Kasaki's in the background, but she's half-dressed. He decides to take the picture down and return it to the teacher before someone else sees it. Before he gets far, he bumps into Kasaki and drops the picture, so he starts panicking because he doesn't want her to get the wrong idea. However, when Kasaki picks the picture up, her thumb covers her image so she doesn't see it. Raku quickly swipes it from her hands and starts walking away, not realizing that Kasaki's gotten the wrong idea since she thinks he took the picture because Chidoje's in it. Later that night, Raku takes the photo Shu sold him to the kitchen, and while cooking, wonders if there are any photos from the day he made his promise 10 years ago. This thought prompts him to seek out his father, and when he asks if there are any photos from that day, his father directs him to the storehouse since that's where he keeps everything. Raku searches the storehouse that night but can't find the picture, so when he gets to school the next day, he's completely exhausted. When Shu comes to invite him to a study session after school at McDonald's, Raku tells him he can't go because he has something important to do. Shu then mentions that Kasaki's going to be there, so after school, Raku finds himself at McDonald's with the others anyway. However, his mind's completely preoccupied with thoughts of which girl he made the promise to all those years ago. After they place their orders, Ruri suggests Kasaki sit beside Raku. But Kasaki says it would be better if Chidoge sat beside Raku since she's his girlfriend. Her answer makes it clear to Ruri that something's wrong, but when Ruri asks about it, she swears there's nothing. When they finally sit down, Seishiro notices Raku struggling with a problem, so she calls him a good-for-nothing failure and says he's not fit to be called Chidoge's boyfriend because he's dumber than a rock. She moves closer to him so she can explain the question, and as she does, Raku can't help but stare at her. When Seishiro notices this, she asks if he can't keep his eyes off her because he's fallen for her, causing him to blush hard. A few moments later, he shyly thanks her for helping him, and it's her turn to go red with embarrassment. Shu notices this and starts grinning because he's the only one who knows how she feels about Raku, so she beats him up. When she's done, Shu asks Chidoge to interpret an English text for them since she's fluent in English. While Chidoge translates the text, Raku has an internal argument with himself about whose key he hopes will open his locket. When Shu calls on him to ask what flavor milkshake he likes best, he nearly blurts out that he likes Kasaki. As soon as he realizes his error, he covers it up by asking Kasaki what flavor she likes, and when she says strawberry, he tells Shu he loves strawberry as well. His slip-up catches Kasaki's attention, and she starts wondering if he wanted to admit that he likes her, but she quickly dismisses the thought. That night, when he returns home, he goes back to the storehouse to search for the picture, and when he finds it, he's completely shocked. This is because the girl in the photo is neither Chidoge nor Kasaki, so he rushes to the house to ask his father who she is, but his men tell him his father went out. At school next day, the teacher hands their photos to them, and before Raku leaves class, Shu slips an extra one into his bag. After school, it's raining heavily, and when Raku sees that Chidoge doesn't have an umbrella, he offers to share his with her. However, the stubborn hoe refuses his offer and starts walking away, using her bag to cover her head, but Raku goes after her and insists she share his umbrella. On the way home, they argue as usual, and when Raku says something that upsets Chidoge, she tries to punch him. At that same moment, there's a flash of lightning which scares Chidoge so much that Raku suggests they wait somewhere until the rain stops. Since she's still spooked by the thunder and lightning, Raku proposes they show each other the photos they received at school. This is enough to put Chidoge in a happy mood, and Raku's glad he hid all of Kasaki's photos so Chidoge can't see them. Unfortunately, she finds the picture Shu slipped into his bag, and since it's a picture of her drooling, she becomes absolutely pissed. Raku quickly explains that Shu was the one who put the picture in his bag, and to his surprise, she believes him. She goes back to her photos, and as she flips through them, lightning strikes again. The next moment, Raku finds Chidoge in his arms as she instinctively hugged him, so he can't help but stare at her. Their intimate moment gets cut short by Raku's father, whose limo just pulled up to the curb, and he teases them saying they look like a happy couple. The old fart apologizes for interrupting them and tells Raku that his fiancée will arrive tomorrow. Raku's completely shocked, but assumes his old man started going crazy because there's no way he has a fiancée he doesn't know about. His father assures him he knows the girl and says she's the same girl he made a promise to all those years ago. Next day, a girl named Marika gets introduced to the class as a new transfer student, and the moment she sees Raku, she throws herself on him, shocking everyone. Shu asks if she's an old friend of Raku's, and she proudly states that she's his fiancée. The moment the words leave her mouth, all the blood drains from Raku's face and Seishiro tells her to back away because Raku's Chidoge's boyfriend. Chidoge and Raku confirm it by putting on their usual display, but Marika's not fazed and says she can make Raku happier than Chidoge. Seishiro immediately picks up on the disrespectful way she addressed Chidoge, so she pulls out her gun and demands an apology. Marika tells her to put the gun away if she doesn't want any trouble, and the next moment, police officers burst through the door. They immediately surround Marika and Raku, and Marika explains that her father's the police commissioner. This makes Raku understand why his father chose not to call off the engagement as it would lead to another war, this time with the police. After Marika orders her butler and the officers to retreat, she falls to her knees, pretending to be sick. She begs Raku to take her to the nurse's office and drags him out of class. In the nurse's office, Raku tells Marika he can't marry her because he doesn't remember her and hasn't seen her in 10 years. He says it doesn't make sense for them to get married simply because their parents want it to happen. But Marika tells him she wants to marry him because she's in love with him. Her confession surprises him, so he asks if she can remember the promise they made 10 years ago, and she tells him yes. Next morning, when Chidoj walks into the classroom, she finds Marika sticking to Raku like a leech, so she quickly hides behind the door. As she watches them, she hears Marika invite Raku on a date, but Raku turns her down saying he's not a shameless cheater. The sneaky girl then tricks him into changing his mind by saying her father would be very disappointed to hear he turned down her invitation. That weekend, Raku meets Marika near the mall, and is surprised to see so many police officers following her. She tells him it's because her father's concerned about her safety, and when they start walking to the restaurant, they run into Seisharu, who's dressed as a girl. However, they have no idea who she is, so they continue on their way, which annoys her for some reason. Ruri, Kasaki, and Chidoj are also following the unsuspecting couple as each of them is curious to find out how the date will go. At the restaurant, Marika asks Raku why he decided to date a mannerless brute like Chidoja, and instead of answering her, he tells her not to speak badly of Chidoja. He also says if she stopped quarreling with Chidoji, they could be friends, but Marika tells him she dislikes girls with long hair, which makes him point out that she also has long hair. The next thing he knows, she's pulling him out of the cafe, and they find themselves on a bench in the park. Raku takes the opportunity to ask her about the picture he found in the storehouse, and Marika tells him she'll tell him everything he wants to know if he breaks things off with Chidoj. Raku tells her he's not going to do as she asked, and even though Marika accepts his decision, she tells him she won't stop trying to steal him away from Chidoj. She then lets him know that Chidoj is hiding behind the bushes listening to their conversation, which surprises him. Chidoj comes out of her hiding spot, but Marika keeps clinging to Raku and claims she's the girl he's been waiting for, so Chidoj angrily hits Raku and walks away. Soon after that, Marika apologizes to Raku and leaves, but she forgets her bag, so he goes after her and finds her with her butler. Before he can let his presence be known, he hears the butler scolding Marika for overexerting herself when she's very frail. When the butler leaves to get her medicine, Raku walks up to Marika and asks if she's unwell. Marika tries to play it off as nothing, so he says he won't pry and tries to leave after handing over her bag, but she stops him. She asks what he likes about Chidoja, and he tells her he likes the fact that he can trust her. Marika says he can do the same with her, but Raku tells her no and says he can't recall ever meeting someone like her before. This statement annoys Marika so much that before Raku knows what's happening, she starts screaming and cursing at him like a sailor. What surprises him most is that her accent changes, and that's enough to make him remember who she is. 10 years ago, Marika had been admitted to the hospital because of her frail health, and Raku befriended her when he learned she couldn't come out to play. He made it his duty to visit her in the hospital every day, bringing little trinkets he could find. His kindness and friendship moved Marika, so when her father asked if she wished to marry Raku when she grew up, she said yes. One day she asked Raku what kind of girls he liked, and he told her he liked girls who were girly and had long hair. This statement pushed Marika to work on herself so she could one day become the type of girl Raku liked. In the present, Marika apologizes for trying to force herself on Raku, and he apologizes for completely forgetting about her. Marika tells him it's fine as they can make new memories together, and before he can react, she kisses him on the cheek. The following week at school, Raku calls a meeting on the roof with Chidoj, Kasaki, and Marika, and he reveals to Chidoj and Kasaki that all three of them played together 10 years ago. Both girls are surprised by this, and when they ask each other about the promise, they each admit they can't remember it. Marika tells them the promise was of marriage because that's what her promise to Raku had been about, which shocks them. Raku then asks Marika why there are 3 keys since she's the only one who recalls things from 10 years ago, and she tells him she has no idea but says she'll be the one to marry him. She then asks Kasaki how she feels about Raku, and she says she sees him as a good friend. Later that day, Marika approaches Raku and invites him to her house so he can meet her father. When he arrives at her house next day, Marika assures him her father's a nice man, but when he comes face to face with the man, Raku's fear intensifies because of how mean he looks. After they settle in the living room, Marika tells her father that Raku completely forgot about her and had no idea she was his fiancée, which makes him mad. She also tells him he has a girlfriend, but assures her father she intends to steal Raku away from her. She then excuses herself to prepare tea, and since Raku's alone with her old man, he decides to come clean. He tells him he's in love with someone else and says he can't marry Marika because of that. But her father tells him he still has to keep to the promise he made with his father. After that, Raku decides to leave, and when Marika meets him in the hallway, she tells him she'll do her best to become the type of girl he likes. Raku tells her she doesn't have to change herself because she's already beautiful the way she is, and that makes her blush. When he continues to praise her, she panics and runs away from him because she can't handle his sweet words. Few weeks later, summer holidays begin, but the day before they start, Kasaki asks Raku if he can come to her family's shop to help out since their cook is sick. Raku's more than thrilled to take the job, so on the proposed day, he arrives at the shop bright and early. Unfortunately, the first person he encounters is Kasaki's mother, who's in a bad mood and would have kicked him out if Kasaki didn't show up at that moment. She introduces Raku to her mother and tells her he's the one who'll replace the cook for the day, but the woman doesn't think he's the right fit. Kasaki assures her mother that Raku's culinary skills rival those of a 5-star chef, so the woman decides to test him and says if his food is bad, she'll send him away. Raku's nervous, but since he wants to prove himself to Kasaki's mother, he focuses on the snack she asked him to prepare. When he's done, he presents it to her. The woman takes one bite of the snack and asks him to marry her daughter, which makes Kasaki beg her mother to stop embarrassing her. Thankfully, she listens to her daughter and leaves both of them alone in the kitchen to prepare snacks for the day. Kasaki apologizes for her mother's behavior and then proceeds to show Raku how their signature snacks are made. Raku points out that since she knows all the steps, she must be very good at making the dish, but Kasaki tells him no. She explains that the first time she was allowed to prepare the dish was also the last time she did it because people got sick after eating it. Soon after they finish in the kitchen, Kasaki's mother tells them she's going out to run errands and asks them to look after the shop. After they tend to a customer, Kasaki asks Raku if he still goes on dates with Chidoja, and he tells her yes. However, she reveals that Chidoja told her long ago that their relationship isn't real, which leaves him gagged and annoyed. Raku starts feeling awkward since he doesn't know if he can finally tell Kasaki how he feels since she knows he's not with Chidoja. Suddenly, it starts to rain and Kasaki's mother calls to tell her daughter she won't be able to come home. She also says Raku can stay until the storm passes, which makes both of them panic. Kasaki quickly rushes upstairs to clean up her room, changes out of her clothes, and places a picture on the desk upside down so Raku won't get the wrong idea. After she calls him up, she excuses herself to get some tea, so Raku looks around the room, and when he notices the picture frame, he tries to find out whose picture is in it. Just as he's about to pick it up, she returns, and he has to act like he did nothing wrong. As they sit side by side, things become awkward, so Raku asks her to show him her old yearbook. And as they go through it, they talk about the past. When they realize it stopped raining, Kasaki escorts Raku downstairs and bids him goodnight. Raku feels sad because he knows he won't see her again until school resumes, so he asks for her email and she gives it to him, which makes him very happy. A few days later, Raku and Chidoja attend a festival together, and as they walk around, Chidoja insists that Raku buy her food, so he takes her to one of the stands belonging to the Yakuza, and they're given free food. This makes Chidoja's greedy hoe self realize that as long as she sticks to Raku, she can eat all the food she wants without paying for it. Kasaki's also at the festival and hopes that if she can buy a relationship charm, things between her and Raku will change. Marika meets her there and asks if she also came to buy the relationship charm, but Kasaki denies it. When she spots Raku and Chidoja, she becomes jealous because she asked Raku to accompany her to the festival, but he refused. A large crowd soon gathers at a particular stall since many people want to purchase the relationship charm, and Raku's one of the people who wants the charm because he believes it'll help him with his relationship with Kasaki. Unfortunately, the crowd's too large, and since Chidoja refuses to leave his side, he holds her hand and pushes his way through the crowd. Raku's able to purchase a charm but loses Chidoja in the crowd, and when he goes looking for her, the person he grabs is Kasaki. Both are shocked to see each other, but Raku's sure the charm is already working to bring him and Kasaki together. However, his happiness disappears because Kasaki asks where Chidoja is, and it makes him worried since he has no idea where she is. Kasaki bends to pick up Raku's charm because he dropped it, but her flip-flops fall apart, so Raku carries her on his back to a less crowded area to fix them. When he's done, they realize a cat has stolen Raku's charm, so he chases after it. The first place the cat stops is on the fence next to Marika, so Raku calls out to her and asks her to stay still. Since she's the undefeated queen of delusions, Marika assumes he asked her to stay where she is because he wants to get steamy with her. When Raku gets close to her, he holds her shoulder and she closes her eyes waiting for the kiss, but it never comes. Raku then continues the chase, but the cat drops the charm on Shu's head and the clueless fool thinks it's a sign for him to hit on girls. Unfortunately, the girl he tries to speak to turns out to be Rory, and she beats the daylights out of him like a pissed-off orangutan, which causes him to throw the charm. Thankfully, it lands next to Chidoja, so when she sees Raku run past her, she calls out to him and returns it. Raku's grateful to her, but after he takes a moment to look at her properly, he realizes she's changed into a yukata. Chidoja tells him Claude brought her a change of clothes while they were separated, and he tells her she looks good in it. As they walk past a shrine, Chidoja sees a sign which says that if a man gives a woman a relationship charm, he's proposing to her. Chidoja laughs at this because she's sure Raku doesn't have someone he wants to give the charm to. The next moment, however, he throws the charm in her direction and asks her to keep it, which surprises her. Chidoja asks if he's sure about his decision, and he tells her yes since he has no idea what she's talking about. In her panic state, her obi loosens, so Raku offers to help her, but she refuses because she's not wearing any underwear. Eventually, she turns around and lets him help her, but she makes sure to blame him for her misfortune. Raku asks why and she points to the sign, and once he reads it, he immediately sets the record straight. Some weeks later, the squad takes a trip to the beach and the girls can't contain their excitement. When they take off their dresses to reveal their bathing suits, Seishiro feels uncomfortable because she's blessed with bouncy honkers left and right. The girls decide it would be fun to tease her, so they start groping and pulling at her chest. Marika then tries to get Raku to put some sunscreen on her, but Chidoja tells her to stop acting like a desperate bimbo and offers to do it. Marika declines her offer and insists that Raku be the one to do it, but he refuses. However, Chidoja assumes he's staring at Marika's chest, so she whacks him with her fist. Later, Chidoja and Raku are assigned to cook dinner, so they go to buy the things they need and get to work. As they work, Chidoja's hand accidentally touches Raku's hand and she panics. Internally, she scolds herself for overreacting as she can't understand why she's getting flustered over a simple hand touch. She's so lost in thought that she accidentally cuts her finger, and when Raku helps her clean it, her face becomes heated. During dinner, everyone praises Raku because the food is delicious, but Chidoja is very quiet and Kasaki notices it. After dinner, Kasaki and Raku are sitting by the sea talking when Chidoja approaches them to tell them it's time to go to the hotel. When she gets closer, she hears Kasaki ask Raku if she can kiss him, so she stops dead in her tracks. Kasaki, on the other hand, can't believe the words that just left her mouth and she freaks out completely. However, Raku's fast asleep, so he hasn't heard what she said, and when he opens his eyes, she runs away. Meanwhile, Chidoja tries to convince herself that she heard wrong and walks away. The next day, Chidoja keeps thinking about Raku, so when Kasaki invites her to build sand castles, she's grateful for the distraction. While they do that, she decides to ask Kasaki about her feelings, but Kasaki assumes she's talking about Seishiro and tells her that she has a crush. This comes as a surprise to Chidoja, who refuses to accept that she has a crush on Raku. That night, while everyone plays with fireworks, Raku notices Chidoja isn't there, so he goes looking for her. He finds her on the other side of the beach, and after he joins her, she asks if things between them would have worked out if they were in a real relationship. Raku says no and explains that she's not his type, so he wouldn't have even tried to date her in the first place. This makes Chidoja tear up, so before he can apologize to her, she runs off, leaving him confused. A few days later, school resumes, but Kasaki notices that Chidoja is being cold towards him. Before he can ask what the matter is, Shu announces that their class will put on a Romeo and Juliet play and insists that Chidoja and Raku play the lead roles, but Chidoja refuses. This leads to the role being passed to Kasaki, and Raku's very excited about the opportunity the goddess of fate has given him. Later, when Kasaki goes to the teacher's office, she sees the picture Raku had been holding the day they returned from camp and asks the teacher why she has it. The teacher explains that Raku returned it to her because he noticed she was half-dressed in the background. During rehearsals, Marika keeps butting in and interrupting Kasaki, and when Raku complains about it, she says she's also rehearsing. She says as Kasaki's understudy, she's supposed to rehearse as well, but he points out that she's messing up the lines worse than Hachikuji. Later, they try on their costumes, and Kasaki takes Raku's breath away when she comes out of the dressing room in her costume. Few days later, Kasaki tries to speak with Chidoj again, but they end up arguing. She tells him she's tired of pretending to be his girlfriend as it's exhausting and says they're nothing but strangers. This pissed Raku off, so he agrees with her and says her father must have been wrong about them being inseparable years ago, so she slaps him. The slap is so loud that their classmates rush outside to see what's happening, but Raku and Chidoj have already parted ways. On the day of the play, Kasaki has an accident and sprains her ankle, so she can't perform. Marika's also out with a cold, so the teacher says if they can't find someone to take Kasaki's place, they'll have to cancel the play. Kasaki starts to feel bad and blames herself for the show being cancelled, so Raku goes to find Chidoj, hoping she'll help them out. He finds her making pancakes in one of the classrooms and drags her outside to speak with her. He begs her to take on the role of Juliet and says he's willing to put aside their differences to make sure the play is a success. Chidoj says he's lying and tells him that after all the things he said on the beach, she's convinced he hates her. This makes him realize that the reason she's been pissed at him is because of the beach incident, so he apologizes. He assures her that while he doesn't think she's girlfriend material, he doesn't hate her. Upon hearing this, Chidoj smiles and agrees to take the role as long as he doesn't mess things up. Before the play begins, they spot their respective families in the audience, so Chidoj tells him they have to put on a good show. When it finally starts, Chidoj delivers her lines perfectly, which surprises Raku since she only glanced through the script. However, she soon forgets her lines and has to improvise, but to Raku's surprise, the audience loves it. As the play continues, Shu adds subplots since he's the narrator. The first one is Seishiro, whose original role was as Romeo's maid, but since Shu decides to switch things up, he says she's secretly in love with Romeo. He tries to make her confess her feelings for Romeo, but Seishiro can't do it as she feels like she's confessing to Raku. She eventually gets pissed and tries to beat Shu up, but she's restrained like a psych ward patient and taken off the stage. The next subplot is Marika, who comes on stage claiming to be Josephine, Romeo's true love. This makes the audience start calling Romeo names, so Raku tries to contain the situation by saying he can't be with Josephine because they're siblings. Still, Josephine insists that their blood ties can't stop the strong love she feels for him since incest is wincest, so Raku decides to play dirty. He says he doesn't want anything that would stress Josephine out because he cares for her too much, and that's enough to make Marika faint from excitement. The last and final obstacle is Claude, who introduces himself as Juliet's elder brother and says if Romeo wants to be with his sister, he has to fight him. He then starts attacking Raku, who tries to save himself by throwing bricks at him. Unfortunately, he pulls one of the bricks holding the set, and it comes crumbling down on both of them. Everyone watches with bated breath, and when Raku emerges from the rubble, they cheer him on. He then resumes his role, and when he gets to his Juliet, he delivers his lines as best as he can. This prompts Chidoj to deliver her lines without any mistakes, and when she tells him she loves him as Juliet, she means it as Chidoj. After the show, Chidoj joins Raku outside, and the two sort out their differences after apologizing for the hurtful things they said to each other. Later, when the class celebrates the success of their play, Ruri forces Raku to take some crepes to Kasaki. While he speaks to Kasaki, she thanks him for saving the show, but admits she feels sad that she hadn't been able to play the role of Juliet. This makes Raku take her to the roof dressed in their costumes, and they reenact the final scene. Even though Raku added a few more lines, Kasaki's very glad that he agreed to make a new memory with her. That's it for today's video. If you wanted till the end, comment down below Shu's concealed assets to confuse the normies. If you enjoy anime recaps like this, don't forget to check out this video right here.